Explain it like I'm 5. Why don't the Japanese suffer from obesity like Americans do, even though they also eat a lot of processed food and sit around for hours? Do they process food differently, or what the hell's going on? Because on top of everything else, they walk a lot, their portions are generally smaller, their food has less sugar, and almost everyone drinks unsweetened green tea instead of soda. Oh, and fat shaming is pretty common there too. Yeah, a lot of Japanese people fill up on rice, and the processed stuff is just a side. That cheap-ass bento from the konbini for 500 yen, it's like 60% rice. Also, cities are super walkable. In Tokyo, you're always within a 20-minute walk from a train station. Ever since I moved there, I walk at least an hour a day just to get to work. Just like that. Plus, soda at McDonald's or from a vending machine is like half the size of the American standard. Why do so many people need glasses? How the hell did humanity even manage without them for thousands of years? Okay, I get that these days we're constantly staring at tiny letters and images on screens and paper. But is that really the reason why millions of people have ended up needing glasses over the last 150 years? Maybe our eyes are evolutionarily wired to look into the distance, not up close, and just haven't adapted yet? A lot of people who need glasses actually have pretty mild vision problems. If they'd been born 150 years ago, they could have lived just fine. Slight nearsightedness wouldn't really get in the way of daily life. But now society is built in a way where almost everything depends on reading and writing skills. You've got to read signs, small print, deal with paperwork. On top of that, driving a car is a huge deal. When you're going 80 kilometers per hour and need to spot obstacles in advance, good vision is a must. Back in the day with a horse and cart, none of that was required. Many people here assume that the level of vision impairment has always been the same, but that's not true. For example, in 2004, myopia was recorded in 41.6% of Americans. In 1971, it was only 25%. That's a 66% increase in just over 30 years. In the 19th century and earlier, our ancestors really did have better eyesight. Scientists haven't fully figured out why yet, but there's a connection between education levels and vision problems. There's also a popular theory about lack of sunlight in childhood. Kids who spend more time outdoors are less likely to become nearsighted. How the hell did ancient courtesans not get pregnant all the time without modern birth control? Contraception has been around for thousands of years. It just wasn't as convenient as it is now. Instead of rubbers, people used animal guts and skins. They tried to wash out the ejaculate with douching. Sometimes they'd shove foreign objects into the vagina or uterus, which basically worked like a prototype IUD, though not a very reliable one. There were herbs that could cause a miscarriage, and there were also physical methods of ending a pregnancy. The ancient Romans had a plant, silphium, that they used for birth control. It was so popular, and not just for that, that they ended up wiping it out completely. Why can't we just do a full-body MRI once a year to catch cancer early? I've heard a lot of scary stories where someone gets sick, thinks they know what's causing it, and then it turns out they've got late-stage cancer. I don't get it. Why don't insurance companies offer this kind of screening as a free annual checkup? I mean, it'd be cheaper than treating cancer. Aren't doctors supposed to push for something like this? I'm a radiologist. Most people have a slightly skewed idea of how MRI actually works. It's a highly specialized study, and there's a separate protocol for every part of the body. For example, a cervical spine MRI is one thing, and a soft tissue neck MRI is a totally different thing. A liver MRI is not the same as a kidney MRI. You could try to do a universal whole body scan using the most generic settings possible, but then you run into issues with resolution and field of view, meaning the image quality ends up crap. Whole body MRI is actually offered in some countries as a sort of luxury service that people pay for out of pocket. But more often than not, those scans raise more questions than they answer. The patient then has to go get a proper scan of the specific organ, this time done right with the correct parameters. Sometimes they find something totally irrelevant, but still end up wasting time and resources on it. In the end, it costs a hell of a lot and gives you very little in return. Why do barbershops have a spinning red and blue pole on the front? Back in the Middle Ages, barbers were also surgeons. They applied leeches, performed amputations, pulled teeth, set bones, did bloodletting, and all that stuff. The colors on that pole, and yeah, it used to be an actual pole, symbolized different kinds of services. White meant bones and teeth work. Red was for anything involving blood, and blue stood for haircuts or shaving. Basically, the pole worked as a sign, here's what we offer. What's actually happening when a chiropractor cracks your back? What's the reason for that loud crack? Why do people feel better afterward? And if it's supposedly some harmful bullshit and a scam, then why the hell isn't this kind of practice banned? When you crack your joints, gas bubbles in the joints burst, making that popping sound. It's generally harmless, but the pop itself doesn't really do any good either. So what's that got to do with chiropractic? The crack gives you the feeling that something's been put back in place. It creates the impression that you're better now. Chiropractic, or manual therapy, is considered a pseudoscience. Most of the time, it doesn't have any proven therapeutic effect. Sometimes there's a bit of benefit, but not because of what the chiropractor claims, more likely just because their techniques involve stretching and massage, which can help a bit with back pain. But in some cases, those manipulations can actually make things worse. Bottom line, if your back hurts, you're better off seeing a real doctor who can prescribe physiotherapy tailored to your specific issue, not some chiropractor who might accidentally help or just as easily screw things up. I'd also like to add this. People often expect instant results from physiotherapy, like from a pill. But if they showed you exercises, you've got to actually do them regularly at home. You're not going to fix years of bad posture and lack of activity with 6 30-minute sessions. What happens to your brain when you're turned on? I often jerk off to fantasies or things that are actually disgusting. But when I'm turned on, they seem appealing. And then I feel a strong sense of guilt afterward. I read that everything works differently in the brain, but I want a clear explanation. What exactly changes, and why does everything feel especially gross after the reset? Edit. Maybe it's because I'm naturally super curious, and I treat my arousal like, let's see how deep we go today. What do you think about that? Metaphorically speaking, the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for logic and reason, fucks off to Cancun and turns off its phone. Its weird neighbor, the limbic system, your reptilian brain, takes over, gets absolutely shit-faced, goes on a rampage, crashes the car, and trashes the apartment. Then the prefrontal cortex comes back from vacation, finds the whole place wrecked, and the reptilian brain passed out naked on the lawn in a puddle of puke. Arousal is a state that can be triggered by fear, attraction, or disgust. When you enter a state of sexual arousal, these feelings can get all mixed up in your brain. Fantasies that spark a little fear or disgust can actually boost arousal because of the whole thrill of the moment. And when the arousal fades, the frontal cortex kicks back in and goes, "Ew." Why does it feel so damn good to dig around in our ears with a Q-tip, even though it's actually really bad for us? This morning after my shower, I used a cotton swab and thought, the deeper I stick it in, the better it feels. But apparently, that's how I'm screwing up my ears. We ENT doctors recommend don't use cotton swabs, and here's why. 1. You're pushing earwax deeper into the ear canal. In the end, it can get clogged up, which messes with your hearing, like you've got a soft earplug in there, traps moisture, and leads to swimmer's ear, inflammation of the outer ear. 2. After swabs, it's way harder for us to clean the wax out during an appointment. It's jammed in deep. 3. If you suddenly push too hard, like if someone bumps into you at that moment, you could damage your eardrum, even puncture it. Thanks a lot for watching. Drop your simple takes on complex topics in the comments below. And don't forget to check out our other vids. Hugs. Later.